Okay, so June 24th, 2014. Here with Grandma Roberts. I'm going to ask her some questions. So the first one, tell me about a hard time in your life and how you got through it.
A hard time?
Something hard you experienced and how you got through that time.
That's really difficult because I don't know. You have to think about what are hard times.
I know.
The hardest times you don't like to bring back to your mind. You erase them from your minds because you've gone through them and you're through with them.
Yeah.
And that's when your children are hurt. There was one time when Chell pushed the big stool over on his toe.
Oh.
And it just, he was screaming. It was just paining him so bad. And of course the toenail got just black, and called the doctor and says, what do I do? Do I bring him in? He says, no. He says, is your husband there? And I says, yes. He said, I want to talk to him. And I said, okay. So he talked to him and he said, take a very sharp knife or an ice pick and do this with it until you can puncture a hole through that nail so that it'll bleed.
Oh. That sounds horrible.
I could not do that on that little boy's.
No.
You need to put him out to do something like that. And I wouldn't let him do it, and I don't think Mel could have done it either.
Mm-mm.
And finally it started to bleed by itself, which was a blessing.
Yeah.
That was a hard time. When Nisha broke her arm, she was out playing on the swing, and I don't remember what she was doing, but when she came in the house, she was holding her arm and her hand was just hanging, you know. And I had to take her into the doctor's office, and they put it in ice, and they had to keep it in ice. And that was so hard.
To keep it in there?
She needed relief from it occasionally.
Yeah.
And I would pull it away occasionally, and I couldn't stand to see her suffer like that. And that was one really hard time. It's when Nisha broke her arm, and then she had to have it in a cast where it was way up like this until it healed.
Oh, yeah, that would be hard.
Yeah, that was really a hard time. And the hardest times have been no money, because we ended with the Depression.
Right.
The Depression was just ending when Mel had already been to war when we met, but it was still, it had bounced out of it. But the results of the Depression were still with us, and so there was really not a lot of money to spend. Like when I was working for Hillfield, I got a job at Hillfield, and I worked in a big office. I was a secretary to a major, and I made $1,444 a year.
Wow.
A year. That means I got a little more than $100 a month. And that was good wages. So you see that it was really difficult to not have any money. And one of the most challenging, now these little kids are not going to like this kind of story. Anyway, they're all adult stories.
Well, they'll be adults someday, and they can.
But the most challenging was when we had no money, and so I talked to my dad and said, we can't pay our tithing every month. We're behind. And he said, you start somewhere. If you can't pay it all, you start by paying $1, and then the next time you pay $2, and the next time you pay $5 until you can pay your tithing. So I started that way, and I started by paying about $50 tithing. And I would take Mel's check down to the bank. I would cash it, and I would take the tithing to the bishop right on the way home, because if I didn't, it couldn't reach. So then when I got the money home, I had to divide it into the bills. Well, it wouldn't pay for all the bills. And so I remember I had one bill where they'd fixed the washer. He came in and fixed it, and the bill was $14. And I had to pay it off $1 a month to pay off that bill. We had no money. And so I'd write out the checks or the rent or what in the car, whatever we were paying. And a lot of them didn't get paid. So then the next month, we'd have a double bill, and so we had to catch up on the ones that we didn't pay. And then by the third time, we were way behind. So we would go to the bank and borrow $200 to pay off the bills. That would give us another month, juggled in the books. So by the time it finished, then he'd get a summer job for the school, He'd get out of school, so he'd go get a summer job working in the hay, or he worked in the hay all one summer,